Alison, does veganism make you uncomfortable?
Veganism doesn't make me uncomfortable. Vegans, some vegans make me uncomfortable.
And elaborate?
Okay. Um, I think that when I interact with vegans, and I have to draw it specific to my context, specific to the Western Australian context, when I interact with vegans, I feel like I'm speaking to someone who has a very different lived experience to me. And I think that's because of like two main things. One, in my experience, like being able to choose what food you can and can't
Is a very, very big privilege.
is a very, very big privilege. And I think when you grow up, and you have these privileges, you don't realize that you have these privileges. This is just a way of being.
Yeah, you're like,
right?
this is what everybody else
There's a lot.
like.
This is the access and the freedom that everyone has in their lives. But I think for me, like growing up and seeing people like literally like not not have food and people struggling to make it day by day, not even for themselves but their children as well. When I meet someone who is vegan, and I try and understand and converse with them, I can tell very early on that the level of gratitude that they have for things in their life is very different to the way that I sort of navigate. And that's from a place of or lack for myself, like having lacked that thing, or a place of, I guess, maybe like prosperity for them, like abundance, like or them always having that thing. When I engage with vegans, like, why are you vegan? Like when I ask them, why are you vegan? What's your rationale? It's usually like either health related or people who are really passionate about animal rights, which is, and then in that animal rights, there's even like a further niche to people who are like just trying to boycott the meat manufacturing industry, like the commercial meat manufacturing industry. And I really relate to that one. Like those vegans I can kind of connect with because it's like they're not looking at it as like, this is my resolve, but rather identifying that it's a systemic kind of issue. And that's their rationale behind it. Then we're kind of speaking the same language. And then it comes to those who really care about animal rights. And I understand that. Like, I understand the importance of like coexisting with nature, and living in somewhat of like a symbiotic give-take relationship. So not overly producing and exploiting and consuming the land and its resources. Like I understand it from that point of view. But I think one thing that actually really made me look at vegans specifically in Australia different was like when there were the George Floyd protests and the movement here to do with Black Lives Matter, right? And in some of these like vegan group chats, when people like people of color who are intersected with veganism, when they spoke about that experience, you would have people responding with like, let's not forget that all lives matter, and even especially the lives of the animals. God, it was crazy. It was actually crazy. I think like during that, that's where I found that a lot of the intersectionality is actually not intersectionality, because the fight that you have joined is not aligned with your fight as much as you thought it was. Like
that's when you're like, oh, these people aren't actually like me at all. These people are not like me.
But it's that thing of like, this is the cause that I support, so I'm going to stick to this cause. But you don't look around and see like what else is around, like what's the landscape. Veganism makes me uncomfortable because of the people that I have interacted with who fall in the bracket of being vegan. I haven't met many vegan people who don't make veganism seem like a sort of
like moral like thing.
They like it almost feels like in the interactions that I'm having with them, it's almost as if like I've done something wrong by opting in to eat and consume meat. And it also kind of feels like a classist kind of situation as well, because it's like, yes, you've got the choice to do that, but not everyone has the choice to do that. And then why are you looking down on people that don't have the choice or choose to do differently from you? I think that's that's the whole like rationale behind being a marginalized group. I don't understand like veganism as a marginalized people.
Like, as in if you're marginalized and vegan, or like as in like
No, as in
from
like,
the point of a marginalized person, you're like,
yes.
I don't understand.
No, like I don't understand, because I find that like when people are fighting for like liberation in their respective like, you know, areas of oppression, vegans kind of like, and this is specific to the Australian context, vegans kind of jump in on that. And I'm like, how are you being oppressed? Like, is that rude of me to like?
No, I don't. No, it's not rude. Because are there any laws or like rules that stop them from being vegans?
I don't know.
Are there any like systemic things? If anything, sometimes it's now in this day and age in Australia,
Yeah,
it's not that hard to be a vegan with the amount of like accommodations that are made for you in different places.
but
So
it's
the
different.
oppression
Like
from-
when you opt in, you're opting into the oppression. This is my thing.
yeah,
Right?
you're not born like
You're
that.
not born like no.
You're not born a bit.
Don't say that. But like you're born into, but from a place of privilege. Usually,
Yeah,
it's not to say like,
and it's something that you can stop or like not do if it comes to a certain point. Like if you're a vegan and you're like all of a sudden you're like, hey, it's too hard for me to keep, like I can't afford to buy this thing, I can't afford to do that. Well, then I'll just stop being a vegan. Whereas like if it's like skin color, sexuality, anything like that, you can't just turn around and be like, hey, you know what? It's kind of hard to live like this.
today
So I'll just
I
stop.
choose to be white. Actually, today I want to be a white man.
I'm just gonna, this skin that I've been wearing the whole time, let me just like unzip out of it.
And that's I think like that's the sort of like disconnect I have with vegan people, is like when they're talking about their cause about veganism,
Yeah.
it's like as if I'm talking about like, you know, like race or like something that oppresses.
Yeah.
And I can't understand this thing that oppresses you, but you're in control of it.
Yeah.
You're in control of that oppression. You
Yeah.
could just opt out at any given moment. And then I also feel like the conversations I've had with vegans that have tried to be intersectional, it's like all these causes weigh the same. And I'm sorry, some causes weigh for me personally.
Not to belittle your experience.
No, but for me personally, I have a rank of like which causes matter or impact me in my life the most. And let me tell you, if I opted in to be a vegan, that'll be very low on my list. It would. It would be very low on my list. So for me to like be talking to someone where this is something that's so high in terms of oppression in their life, there's a big disconnect because we have lived two completely different lives. And if that's your biggest like area of oppression, it must be nice. It must be nice.
It's been nice.
And sometimes I just won't understand you and you just won't understand me. And that's okay. And that's okay.
But just leave it at that. Just go, oh, we don't understand. Anyway.
Yeah, and move on.
Move on.
Or like, don't now try guilt trip me into like, being a vegan and making me watch.
You don't like animals?
Do you see the things that they do? Let me pull up this video. Have you watched it? No.
Everybody needs to watch his video.
No, because it's not every day I'm opening my. You don't like black people? Do you see what they used to do? Do you see what they used to do? Because if I showed you those videos, you would be very sad. You would.
Perhaps more sad.
You'd be animals. You'd be like, they used to do that to humans. You would be very upset. But you're inflicting trauma to like, I didn't opt in to see this animal to like being like slaughtered like that. And I think like the approach is just so confronting. It's a very confronting approach.
And like kind of oftentimes like aggressive.
For
no, like, not for no reason, but
for their reasons that are very important to them.
Yeah.
But aren't important to me.
But unfortunately,
I cannot partake. The concept of veganism itself doesn't make me uncomfortable. Like, opt out of eating meats as long as you're doing it in a healthy and sustainable way for yourself and your body. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm like, are you making sure that you're getting the correct amount of iron? Are you making sure that everything that meat has played in a role in terms of making sure that you're at peak performance health-wise
replace
has been supplemented in some form? your rationale is your rationale. At the end of the day, it's your life. You do what you want to do.
You eat what you want to eat.
Look after your body, you know. This is our vessel.
We got one.
We got one. Just one in this life. All right. Marina.
Yeah.
Does veganism make you uncomfortable?
Veganism? No. I feel like when it comes to diet and things like that, you do you. Like, eat whatever you want to eat. I'm not going to sit there and judge someone for having tofu if I'm out, like, smashing a family bucket is the week after. You know what I mean? Like, food's a very subjective thing. You have different tastes, people have different requirements, have different needs. Eat whatever you want. But I do find some vegans can get very, like, preachy and very, like, they take a moral high ground.
Yeah.
On their stance, and they're like, this is the only way that you can do it. If you don't do it like this, then what's wrong with you? And I find it, as you were saying, quite classist, because some people are like, what they eat, that's all they get it. Like, they don't have a lot of choice over, like, oh, I don't want to eat meat, so I'll just throw it out. Because we're not throwing out food here. We're not wasting food.
No, 100%. And we got to eat.
Like, if it's the cheapest option, unfortunately, it's the cheapest option.
Even if it's not the cheapest option, if it's the option that requires the least amount of
thinking and mental capacity.
Yeah, because I'm an autopilot.
Yeah, if it's the easiest thing to make, like, you don't have, if it's minced, you don't have to cut it up. You just
meal.
And then I also think that there can be an element of, like, I don't know if racism is technically the right word, or like just like prejudice, where a lot of food is quite, like, culturally important to people. And to turn around and be like, you can't eat that, I find very insensitive.
Who are you?
Like, who are you to say? And then once we start getting into like, there's a whole other subject of what foods can you eat, what animals can you eat, and what animals can't you eat.
Why can't we eat meat?
What separates this animal from this animal? That's going beyond veganism. That's going just into just a whole thing about just eating meat. But, like,
is it religious? Like, I know, like, some
are religious, but even like insects, some people are like, you can't eat that stuff, and then other people are like, what does it matter?
That's like based off of lived experience. I eat insects.
Like, if I don't die when I eat it, who cares? But I just find it just comes from such a place of privilege that people don't really, and they don't think it does, which I find the most, like, kind of confronting, is that to them, it's not. To them, it's just like a normal, like, this is just me. I'm a vegan. Like, it's just a very, like, but they're not aware of the position that they're in, where it's kind of like, you get to make these choices. That's kind of crazy. Don't you think about that ever, that you can make this choice? Like, that's wild.
I don't know. I find them a lot, like, some vegan people in the Oppression Olympics, and it's like, who invited you here? Wait, why is there even an Olympics at this time?
Also, what you were talking about when you're like, there's like a rank, there is a clear ranking of types of oppression, like, and like struggle, and what's like more of a struggle. Veganism doesn't even rate high on the struggle of, like, dietary requirements. Like, unless you're allergic to all of those things, and you, like, sorry, celiac, anaphylaxis, those struggles are harder because you eat that food, you die.
That's the end of here.
Like, that's it. You've got no choice. You can't just be like, oh, today, actually, I feel like a bit of chicken nuggets.
You're actually so right.
Like, there's other, and that's also not to say that, like, you can't be vegan. Be whatever you want to be, but, like, sometimes you don't need to push it onto other people. You don't need to, not even push it. You don't need to advocate so aggressively for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that, because I think it also just doesn't make sense when you live, or it's tone deaf.
Yeah, tone deaf. You can be a bit like, they're unaware of, like
look around
the situation.
Look around you. It's like, oh my gosh, recently I was in fifth grade, a bio fifth grade, and the people I was sitting next to were talking about, oh, my dad only left me one property, and I was like, what? oh, I don't know whether to sell it or rent it out or Airbnb it. What do you guys think? I was like,
And then look me no properties.
my friend went Footscray. Why did you think the most appropriate place to come and sit about your property was in a bar in Footscray? Like, okay, talk about what you want to talk about all the time, but like, well, look at where you are. Like, do you even realize like the juxtaposition? Like, I was sitting there and I was like,
hey, talk about what you want to talk about, but be aware of the people that could be eavesdropping on your conversation. Be aware of me listening to you, judging you.
I'm just like, this is just so crazy because as soon as you step out of the bar, you look across the road, there are homeless people who sleep on the street. How are you so removed from like where you're operating? Anyway, sorry.
I feel like we're barely talking about veganism in this episode. But I don't know. At the end of the day, do what you want to do. Eat what you want to eat. That's fine. I admire the act of like taking diet as a form of like protest against like the commercial meat industry. I admire that. Like that's why I could never. I know myself.
I would rather start a little farm.
But I also think that it's not the only way to enact that sort of protest.
Yes.
And also the commercial meat industry, the commercial like animal-based product industry is not the only way of acquiring food. You can you can go out and find locally sourced eggs,
markets
like that,
go to markets,
which are like you can be a bit more like ethical in your consumption.
Yeah. So
it's not the only way, but I will also say sometimes it is the easiest way for a lot of people, and there is no like fault on them. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. Food is a requirement of life, and however you get it sometimes is the best way for you to get it.
And in a way that's going to nourish your body and maybe you won't ingest like crazy hormones. That might be nice.
So like and at the end of the day, to summarize, it doesn't really make me uncomfortable. No. Could I do it?
Could you do it? Could you do it?
I reckon vegetarian I could do. Pescatarian I could do. Vegan, once I'm cutting out eggs, butter, dairy, cheese, I think I struggle. But I also think that there are a lot of like, what is it, cashew cheese? Is that like one?
Yeah.
And then like you get like fake thing like
but you can like these things get more expensive as well.
I know.
Like if you go buy alternative milk, it's more expensive than buying milk. If you go buy alternative cheeses, that's also the level of privilege.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You can afford
be able to replace your consumption as it is.
Yeah.
One for one. Like
have some fake turkey.
You're gonna like be doubling, if not tripling, the cost of consumption.
Yeah. But I feel like if I really had to, I don't know if I could do veganism. Actually, like if I was like, if I really, really had to, like gun to my head,
like for my health, like if you told me if I'm going to die tomorrow if I don't become a vegan, I will become a vegan.
I don't know if I would.
You wouldn't.
I'd go get some wicked wings from KFC and then say goodbye.
I would say like I wouldn't opt into being a vegan, but like if I was dead, if someone said, I bet
if I was dead,
I bet, because that's the only circumstance I became a vegetarian for like 2 months was because I think it was my dad dead, and he was like, I bet you can't eat meat. I bet you can't do it. As soon as you get, I bet you can't do it, I'm like,
if there's a challenge, if it's a challenge or a game, I mean,
let me show you what I can and can't do.
No, I think I could, like, I assume everybody, if they had to, could. My iron struggle. My iron would struggle.
You'd have to supplement crazy.
Have those pills again.
The pills, you'd be buying the little fish to put in your.
Spend a lot of money, man.
You'd be buying the fish iron. You got the fish.
Oh, is it like the iron?
Yeah, the little iron fish.
I thought you were just saying fish.
No, the iron fish. The iron fish.
Well, I'm glad that we both know that we could do it if we had to, but we won't.
I will not be opting.
Neither.
That's it from us, guys. If you'd like to join the discussion, head on over to our Instagram.
And if you like this episode, prove it. Like, comment, you know what to do.
Peace out. See you next time.